name is Carina and welcome to the Carina Chronicles. Today I will show you my top 20 of books that I read with a book club that is focused on YA and new adult books. So I've actually did this video before for the Campus Laan book club and I'm wearing the same sweater because I thought it was funny, but it's not for the same book club. As you might know, I have joined many book clubs, I think 4 or 5. And I wanted to do this kind of top 20 every time when I read 20 books with a book club. They all have like different favorite genres, so it will all the times be different top 20s. The main purpose of it is to tell you which books are really nice to read with a book club. So maybe you are not really interested in reading them on your own because you find them scary or you don't know if it is going to be something for you. And it can be very comforting to know that you're reading it together with other people and that you can discuss everything that happens. So this top 20 is not that the first book is the best book, although I really like the book. But it's not my highest rating. And the whole top 20 is not like that. The lowest book is not my lowest rating either, because they are just ranked in the way that you can discuss them with other people and it makes for a fun book club read. So this one is for the Awesome Book Club. That's seriously how it's called, literally. And it's created by Jessica from Review and Roses. She has a blog. I will leave it down below. And I don't go to the book club meetings, but I follow them to see which books they read and then I read them myself. They are already at 39 or something, but I just finished the 20th book that they have read, you know? So there are 20 books now that I've read for this book club and I wanted to do this top 20. Let's quickly start. I'll start at number 20 and we will go all the way up to number 1. Okay, so the first 5 books that are not really suitable as book club books in my opinion. On number 20, the lowest place is Onder de Sterren van Montpellier by Marina. This is actually not a bad book. I really liked it. It is a very cheesy romance story that transports you to Montpellier and really liked it, but there's nothing more to the story in my opinion. So there's nothing really to discuss. I think everyone that likes this kind of fluffy story will like it and everyone that doesn't like it won't like it. And that's it. So no real content to discuss. Obsidian by Jennifer L. Armentrout is on place 19. I think no one that knows me is surprised because this is one of the books that I hated most since I've been on BookTube. Yeah, this is a paranormal romance story. I feel it's too weird to actually really discuss nice topics, and there will definitely be people that like this book, but there's not something to discuss. It's just, I know the cover is really pretty, but I know I should have known looking at this cover that it might not be something for me, but okay, don't kill me. But on place 18 we have A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. If you don't know this book, you've been living under a rock, but I kind of admire you. But this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling by Sarah J. Maas, the queen of YA fantasy at the moment. Not because she is the greatest author in my opinion, but because a lot of other people think she is the greatest. And this book, I did quite like it, to be honest. Like, I gave it 3 stars or something. It's fine, but the things you could discuss with your book club is the relation to Beauty and the Beast and what you liked, what you didn't like. It's a little bit better than discussing Onder de Sterren van Montpellier, but not that much. Like, there's not too much to the story to really discuss. Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo is on place 17. And I already see that the most popular books are the ones that are lower in my top 20. And that's a shame, but I do think that's because they're not bad books, but they are just fantasy stories that need to take you on an adventure, and you can talk about how much you like to go on that adventure, but there it stops for me. I know a lot of people love this series, this trilogy, and it might get better, but for now I gave it like 3 stars, and I also think it's just a fantasy YA. Nothing more to it, but I do love the cover very much. And then on the 16th place we have Shatter Me by Tahareh and Mafi. A lot of people don't like this book, and a lot of people love this book. And I'm kind of in between. I gave it 5 stars, so I actually love the book. But I do see what are the problems are, all the problems are, and I don't really see how this is going to be like a 7-book series. Well, at least very long. And there's also not that much to discuss. This story is about a girl that can't be touched, because then she kills you automatically without wanting it. And I do think that is kind of an interesting philosophy. So in that way, it would contain something to discuss, but the story is not really about that. It's more a kind of love adventure story. And again, I don't think that's really suited for book club books, but who am I? So for the next 5 books, we're already going to some books that I really loved, but are not this high in this top 20, because I just don't think they're really book club books. The first one we're going to talk about on place 15 is Firstlife by Gena Showalter. I love this cover. This was actually the first book that this book club read, so also the first one that I read for them. And I liked it, kind of. I thought it was a little bit too special snowflake main character, but the story is quite interesting. You have like this afterlife where you have 2 camps that are in war, and you get sorted into one of those camps due to how you lived your life. But you can also choose, and there's also a 3rd one where you're not really divided into any of those, and that's really bad. So you need to choose, but once you have chosen, you will never be with the people that chose the other one, because they're in war. That's kind of the story, and this main character is really struggling to decide, because her family is all in one, but she really feels like she would be more suited for the other part. And then of course she meets all kinds of people that try to convince her to go to either side. On 14 we have Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is a very beautiful fantasy novel. I would highly recommend this, but I already forgot a lot of things about it, which is bad. And it's not bad because it's written not that well, but if it's, in my opinion, a good book club book, then you can discuss about it endlessly. And every time someone comes up with the book, you're like right into it and wanting to give your opinions on things. And this was just nice. It's just a nice story, but not something to discuss with your book club. When I'm talking like this, I feel like I maybe should have put Firstlife higher, because you can discuss in which afterlife you would have been. But okay. Next one is The Queen's Rising by Rebecca Ross. I love this book. This is one of my favorite reads that I read recently. But it's a very cliche plot, and I already explained when I told why I love this book so much that the characters are far more interesting than in most YA books, and that I feel like it's not just only a plot. And in that way we could discuss it with a book club and talk about if people agree with me, but in the end it is just a fantasy story with 2 rivaling families and trying to get their kingdom back, you know. So it is quite cliche and doesn't have that much of a deeper meaning, which is really something I look for in book club books. But it's probably my favorite. Well, no. Well, maybe. It's one of my 3 favorites in this whole top 20. So definitely read this book, but maybe just not with your book club. Then we have Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is quite interesting because it's about a circus that is traveling around, and if you participate in here, you are in kind of a game and it's with a lot of magic, and it is not as much fun and games that people would expect. So 2 sisters go here, and one of the sisters disappears, and the other sister is trying to solve all the riddles in this circus to actually get to her sister. It's a very enjoyable fantasy. I think you could discuss a lot of things because all the games, of course, have some deeper meaning in some way. So you could discuss those, but it's not the greatest book club book. So that's why it's on place 12. And then on place 11, we have Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell. I love this book very much. It's about a boy that is, for a change, not really a special snowflake. Well, he probably will be in the end, but he starts out as not a special snowflake because he is within a big group of people having magic, and he needs to prove that he has it as well, but he just doesn't succeed. He doesn't know why he blocks out, but he just can't really succeed. And the story is about him trying to prove that he has magic, because otherwise he will be banned and cannot use magic ever again. And of course there's also a bigger plot going on, and he tries to figure out what will be his role in this. So, nice book, but doesn't sound per se as something that you can discuss with your book club very much. So now we actually arrived at the books that I do think are suitable as book club books. They are not the best, the ones that I'm now going to mention, but they definitely give room for some discussion. The first one is Warcross by Mary Lou, and this book is about a virtual reality game that is very popular, and the main character is very good at this game, but they find out that there's a lot of money into this game, but there's even more to it, and it seems to be kind of a real life thing where things can really happen to people. And I think this is really interesting because it's kind of science fiction that's getting more and more relevant, because of course there is a lot of development on the technical sides of society. So there's always a lot you can discuss if a book takes place in such a world. And what would you do? Would you participate? What do you think are the perks and what are the cons of such a world? So I think you can discuss quite much about it. I just didn't really like the book. So that's why it's on the 10th place and not higher. Then we have The Last Namsara by Kristen Ciccarelli. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. But this is a book with dragons. So it definitely should be higher in this top 20. But yeah, the main character is supposed to be crazy. And I think that always leaves room for a lot of discussion. Like, do you think she's crazy? What is society's input on having people live their lives as other people expect them to? And a lot of YA books of course do that, but I think this one does it very well. She is also physically scarred, which makes it more visible into the story as well. And I think that's something nice to discuss. So it takes place 9 and it has dragons. Then we have Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. This is so much more than the cover told me, because I really thought that this was going to be more like a middle grade book. And maybe it is, but I still really liked it. This is about a girl that is very famous on the internet, but nobody knows who she actually is, because on the internet she writes a story or she creates a story. It's more like art. And then she meets this guy that she finds out writes her most popular fan fiction. That's also really popular. So they start kind of a relationship. Well, not really a relationship yet, but they are becoming good friends and they really like each other's company. But there's it's just a very good coming of age story. And I think that always makes for good discussion material. Then on place 7 we have Everless by Sarah Holland. Here it's about blood is kind of your money. And I think that already makes for a great discussion, because you can discuss things like how much money would you pay to do certain things that you actually didn't plan on doing before you got money for it. And I think that's always interesting. And in this story she also makes some choices that you could argue about if you would do them and how. So I think that makes for a good discussion, and I really like this book as well. And then we have The Valiant by Leslie Livingston. This is based on true history, female gladiators, which is great. And I have to admit that this is so high in my top 20 because I have a lot of friends that are very interested in Greek and Roman mythology and history. So I could see myself discuss this book very excessive. So that's why I think it's really good. But it's also a really good story. We need more female gladiator stories. So would highly recommend this, and you can discuss it with your book club. It's also just that with book clubs, a lot of people seem to be interested in mythology and history. And you can get a lot of more information on the topics, which makes it easier to discuss. So that's why it's, in my opinion, a good book club book on number 6. And then we get to the top 5 of the books that I think are very good book club recommendations. So on 5 we have Dividing Eden by Joelle Charbonneau. And this is a book about a twin. And the twin know that normally there is one person that automatically claims the throne. But now we suddenly have 2. And it's never like the oldest person, it's just they do kind of a match or something. But now they are twins and it's strange. So the kingdom decides that there should be like a whole Hunger Games kind of event to decide who of the 2 will become king/queen, because they're man and woman. But you see that one of those is slowly turning bad, and one of them is staying very good and doesn't really want the other person to lose. And you get that from both point of views, which makes a really interesting discussion. And I think you could really put yourself in both positions and discuss what you would do and what you think of the characters' choices. So it makes for a good book club book. And then on place 4 we have I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This book is also about a twin actually, and also 2 different point of views. But we follow one of the twin person when they are 13 and one of them when they are 17 or maybe 16 or 18, but something like that. And in between they actually lost their mother. So this is a book about partially grief, but they also grew apart partially because of that happening. And there are different approaches to grief, but also because of their main focus in life, which is for both of them art. And I think it's just a beautiful story. And it's also very interesting to see how different minds work when you're 13 and when you're a little bit older, and what happens in between, and how their innocence is kind of gone. And I think it's a very good book, but has a lot of depth to it. So you can discuss a lot of grief-related, art-related things, and also miscommunication in some way. So yeah, would highly recommend that. And then to our top 3. They're not even all 5 stars. I just think that one of them is a really great book club book. But number 3 is a 5-star rating for me. And that is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sainz. And this book is about 2 boys that grow up. And they first meet each other and then they become friends and then they need to discover the rest of their lives. And it's just really cute and really well written. And you really have a great coming of age story that makes you able to discuss your own coming of age, I feel like. And it has some LGBTQ plus representation in here, which makes it easier to discuss those things as well. Maybe some people coming out stories. And I think it's just a book that everyone should read, but that everyone will have an opinion on as well. So I think that's great. Then on second place, I really had a hard time deciding which one of these was going to be on first. But on second place, we have It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This book has gained more popularity than ever since TikTok arrived. But this book is kind of promoted as a romance, which it is not. People going in here thinking it's a romance are like, it's so cliche and Haley in Bookland just read this book and she said it perfectly, in my opinion. She was like, I didn't really like the book because it was too cliche in my opinion, but at the end of the book I was happy that Colleen Hoover made it so cliche because it seemed, because of that, more realistic at the end. And that sounds very contradictional, but you will get it. So get through it because in the end everything falls into place and it's perfectly written, in my opinion. And just love this book, and it has so much more. Look up the trigger warnings. There is the most important trigger warning is probably abuse in here, but there are a lot of them, so please look them up. But I think after this you will be having a lot of emotions that you can then discuss with your book club. And the number one is actually not a 5-star rating for me, but I did really like it, and that is How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. This is a story about a man that has kind of an illness for which he cannot grow old. Or he does grow old, but it's going very slow, so not in a natural kind of way. So he lives for decades, like Twilight. But he lives for decades, and he lives 8 years at one place and then he moves. But during his whole long life, he's trying to figure out what is important in life, because if you're living so long, you need to find a way to make it worth it. And that's just so beautiful, and you can discuss so much about how you think life is worth it. And it talks in a very mature way about love and what is important in love and who's there to love. And I don't know, beautiful book, but also beautiful discussion material. So that was actually it. That's how I would rank those 20 books and which ones are best to read with your book club. I hope I could recommend some books to you that you can pick up with your book club next. And if you just want to read them on your own, please let me know what you thought of them. Maybe we can discuss them. I would really like that. If you liked the video, please leave a like. And if you subscribe to my channel and you click the notification bell, you will be notified whenever I post a new video. I hope you'll have a lovely day filled with books, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye! I actually re-recorded this video because it was so extremely messy, but I hope you do like it now, because I really thought it was fun to recommend you all these books. Have a nice day!